Mr. Huff. Real quickly, I want to go through the testing report structure and template and what you need to do. Just an overview of the assignment. Make sure you watch this all the way through, and you can use my sample document or make up your own. First thing I want to do is talk about some of the headings and title pre-formats. If you look in Google Docs, you'll see right here you have some choices. Subtitles or titles and subtitles and headings and that sort of thing. If we use that, then as we work, the Google Docs system will keep track of your document outline for you so that you don't have to do a table of contents. It'll be built in, all right? So what we want to do is right here, if it's a title, there's only going to be a couple in here. You're going to do control and, no, you're just going to do, you have to set it as title. So if you go in here, if you look at title, it says apply title, that's how you set that. Notice how the headings, you can do control alt and a number for 1, control alt and number 2 for 2, control alt and number 3 for 3. So you can change these headings and control alt and the number 4 for 4. So you can real quickly change these headings. I'll just flip through a couple of them here. So here's 4 and then 3 and then 2 and then 1, okay? So that's gonna let you real quickly put in your text and change your headings, and I'll go through the structure in just a minute, but if you do that, then this will self-generate, and that's a thing of beauty. So what I expect to see is the title is going to be in the center. Your heading 1 will be with your section headers, and these will be centered. Everything else will be left justified. Plain text will look kind of like this, and for new paragraphs, we're not going to indent. You're going to skip lines like a business thing. I couldn't figure out how to make new paragraph styles in Google Documents. So if you're showing me code, you need to make it a monospace font. I like Source Code Pro, but there's several more that you can choose from. Just be consistent throughout your document with the font and the size. And I would suggest make your code a different color so it stands out. And this could be pseudocode or whatever. Anytime you're referencing code, please do that, all right? Let's talk about the structure of this report. You're going to have a title page, and then you will have an introduction. This is where you introduce your project. You describe the problem you're trying to solve. You have this statement. You can refer to that. You can streamline it however it makes sense. This is kind of a data analysis and a persuasive report. So you're going to tell us why you're testing it, what's the purpose, and then you're going to list the tests in order of importance, okay? So put the most important one first and the least important one last. For each test, you need to have at least 3 tests reported, no more than 5. I think I had you identify 8. You may have 8 done, but you only probably need 5 to establish that your solution solves the problem. So for each one, you'll have a test title. That's going to be like a section header. And then you're going to describe the purpose of the test. You'll have a paragraph that describes the results and observations from the test. You'll include the data and a graph of the results of this test. And you can have more than one if you need to, but you'll have a data table and you'll have a graph that graphically shows the results. And all of this needs to agree. Don't say that an improvement if your data does not show that. Then lastly, you'll have multiple sections of that, one for each test, and then at the end you'll have your conclusion. You're going to restate your purpose from the introduction. You're going to point out your key findings, what is most meaningful, what's most useful, what guides your design, what reveals the most about your design. And then remember, your goal is to persuade us, the reader, that your design solves the problem and that it does so according to your data and analysis. I also want to point out that the style right here, I expect this to be written in a technical or business style, which means I expect this to be written in third person. Don't use the pronouns I and you. Use things like one can observe and that sort of thing. So that's one of the tips. Also, avoid passive language. An easy way to solve this is after you've written it all out, do a search for the words is, are, and will. And those are passive verbs. Replace those with active verbs like measure or replace or something like that. Things that where they're actually doing something, active verbs, okay? let's move on. So here is just going through the structure. You may have a title page like this. Put your title, give it a subtitle that kind of summarizes what you think about the project. Prepared by, put the names of everybody that worked on your project and the date, and then that date there. So this will be kind of a title page. Notice that my style is consistent throughout this document, okay? Then I'm going to have an introduction. I expect to probably about this much writing. If you need to have, break it up into a couple of paragraphs, be sure to skip lines like that. And then you're going to list the tests in order from the most important to, well, start with the most important down to the least important. Remember, you need to have 3 minimum, 5 max. And that's just a little note there. So then you're going to have the title of your test. So replace this test in a short phrase, or in a short phrase. 1, replace this with elasticity testing or something like that. So what are you doing in this test? Tell us the purpose of the test and how it relates to your solution. And then give us the results. What did you learn after reviewing the data? What does it tell you about your solution, its design, and is it weak or strong, or do you need further development? What did you observe in the test, and what are the results that you can take away? So this is the analysis portion. Think about like your lab reports that you may have written in science. A lot of times you haven't written one in science, but you would, at the end of your data analysis, you would say, based on this, we know that this is true or not true about our hypothesis, blah, blah, blah. So that's where you're kind of bringing it all together. I expect to see a data table. I couldn't get the captions to work as a style, so just make it bold. Just make it a normal text line and bold it. Make sure it's underneath your data table to describe it. Notice we have titles. You can figure out what this is talking about. It's just not a sea of numbers. It has titles and labels and everything, so you can see that. And the same with graphs. You have X and Y axes. You have notes about what you're seeing. You can see the different lines and that sort of thing. And again, put a caption under each one. So I should see a data table. I should see the graph, okay? And then at the end of this, you put according to this data. This is where you tell us how it guides your design and what the implications for your solution. So I guess the difference between the results and observation and how it guides the design, this is focused on the data right here and things you did during the test, like if it caught on fire when we were testing it, that's a good observation to put in there. And then down here at the end is how does this result guide your design? How does it prove your design functions? What does it tell you about your solution? Okay, so this is a solution focus. This is data focused. All right, we're going to move on. So you're going to have one for each test, the same structure every time. And then at the end, you will have, after you share your 5 tests, so it could be kind of lengthy, at the end, you'll have conclusions, and this is where you restate your purpose from the top. You can rewrite it a little bit. It's pretty much saying exactly the same thing at the start. So if someone went to the very end of this, they should be able to tell in one page what you've learned. That's what we're going through doing. So some of the key findings from your statements here, or the key findings from your testing, and a lot of this can be pulled from this according to this data, summarize it and talk about what the findings were and how that's important. And then the last and most important section is, according to these tests, prove that your solution solves the problem. That's what we're really after in this. All right, so these will be peer reviewed. One more thing let me point out. I've got a page number down here on the bottom, so be sure you include page numbers. Okay, so let me circle back and talk about these will be peer reviewed to make sure that your writing is solid and that you've addressed things, and they will have questions for you. So again, I'll share this document with you. You can kind of look at the structure and stuff, write in yours and delete the first couple of pages before the title, and you're good to go. Let me know if you have any questions.